At 10:30 a.m. on April 7, 1943, the skies over the Solomon Islands erupted into chaos. A 22-year-old Marine pilot, who had never fired his guns in combat, was about to face 150 enemy aircraft. By the end of that day, he would become an American legend. His name, James Elms Swett. His first mission, Guadalcanal. His legacy, 7 enemy bombers destroyed in 15 minutes. This is his story. It was a hot, humid morning at Henderson Field. Swett and the pilots of Marine Fighter Squadron VMF-221 were restless. For 2 months, they'd flown nothing but routine patrols. Endless hours of staring at empty sky. No action, no contact, no combat. Then, at 10:20 a.m., the air raid siren wailed. A voice crackled over the radio. "All fighters, scramble! Enemy formation inbound!" Most pilots assumed it was another false alarm. They'd had dozens of those lately, radar phantoms, radio chatter, nothing real. But this time, the warning was real. Japanese scouts had spotted the Allied fleet anchored off Tulagi. And now, the largest air raid since the Battle of Midway was on its way. Lieutenant James Swett climbed into his Grumman F4F Wildcat, call sign White 2. He ran through the checklist like he'd practiced 100 times. Oil pressure, normal. Fuel, full. Guns, armed. 6 .50 caliber Brownings loaded with 240 rounds each. 24 seconds of total firepower. His flight leader was Captain Joseph Foss, already a national hero with 26 kills to his name. 4 Wildcats roared down the coral runway and lifted into the humid sky. They turned northwest, toward the incoming storm. At 8,000 feet, Swett saw them. Dozens of tiny black dots glinting in the sunlight. Then dozens more behind them. He counted 15 Japanese Val dive bombers in tight formation, and more formations stretching back to the horizon. Above them, Zero fighters flew escort, a shimmering wall of silver and death. 150 enemy planes, 4 American Wildcats. The odds? 37-1. Foss led the division into a head-on dive toward the lead bombers. At 400 yards, Foss opened fire. His tracers tore through the first Val AS engine. It exploded in a ball of orange fire. Swett picked his own target. Range 350 yards. He lined up the glowing pipper on the cockpit and squeezed the trigger. The Wildcat shuddered as all 6 guns fired. Brass casings streamed from the wings. The Val S canopy shattered. Its pilot slumped forward as the bomber rolled over and plunged into the sea. His first kill. Seconds later, he shifted aim to another bomber and fired a 3-second burst. The left wing sheared off cleanly. 2 kills in 40 seconds. Then a Zero screamed past his canopy, a blur of red and white. Swett yanked the stick right, rolled inverted, and dove to escape. When he leveled off, his formation was gone. He was alone, surrounded by hundreds of enemy aircraft. Below him, bombers continued their runs on the Allied fleet. Swett pushed the stick forward and dove after them. His airspeed climbed to 400 knots. He fired a short burst. The nearest Val exploded. 3 kills in 6 minutes. He pulled up, scanning for more. His training took over. No panic, no hesitation. Another group of 15 bombers was forming up above him, preparing to dive. He climbed into position, the sun at his back. At 200 yards he opened fire. A 4-second burst. Nearly 300 rounds. The Val's tail disintegrated. It spun into the ocean trailing smoke. 4 kills. Swett swung left into the next formation. He dove straight through them at full throttle. At point-blank range, he fired. A direct hit on a bomb still mounted under a Val S fuselage. The entire aircraft vanished in a fireball. 5 kills in 9 minutes. The remaining bombers scattered. Some jettisoned their payloads to escape. Others pressed on toward the ships. Swett didn't hesitate. He picked off a 6th bomber trying to flee at low altitude. His tracers walked up the fuselage, igniting the fuel tank. It cartwheeled into the sea. 6 kills. He had maybe 400 rounds left, enough for 6 seconds of firing. Still, he climbed again, scanning for one more target. Then he spotted another Val beginning its dive toward Gavutu Harbor. Swett rolled inverted into a split S dive, pulling negative Gs so hard his vision dimmed. The Val's rear gunner opened fire. Tracers whizzed past Swett's canopy. At 1,000 feet, he squeezed the trigger, a 2-second burst. Flames erupted from the Val's engine. The bomber plunged into the harbor. 7 kills in 12 minutes. But in that same instant, disaster struck. A shell slammed into his left wing with a deafening crack. The Wildcat lurched violently. Swett looked out and saw a 2-foot hole torn through the metal skin. Fuel streamed from the tank. He hadn't been hit by the enemy, but by his own side. A shell from a U.S. ship's anti-aircraft gun had punched straight through his wing. Friendly fire. The Wildcat still flew. Barely. Swett tried to climb, but the damaged wing dragged like a dead weight. Then the engine temperature spiked. Black smoke poured from the cowling. His oil cooler had been hit. At 240 degrees, the engine seized. The propeller froze. Silence filled the cockpit. No engine roar. No guns. Just wind rushing past the shattered wing. He was 3 miles from Henderson Field, too far to glide. He had one option left: ditch in the water. Swett spotted an open patch north of Gavutu Island and lined up for landing. He jettisoned the canopy, tightened his harness, and braced. At 200 feet, he pulled the nose up slightly. The tail struck first, exactly as trained. The impact was brutal. His face slammed into the instrument panel, breaking his nose. Water surged into the cockpit. The Wildcat began to sink. He tried to stand, but something held him down. His parachute shroud lines had deployed, tangling his legs. Water rose to his chest, to his neck, over his head. He fought to free himself, cutting through the cords with his survival knife. 1, 2, 3, 4. His lungs burned. His vision narrowed. At the last moment, the final line snapped, and he kicked upward. He broke the surface, gasping for air, blood streaming from his nose, salt water filling his mouth. But his life vest failed to inflate. His raft was destroyed. He was floating alone, 3/4 of a mile from shore, in full flight gear. He stripped off his jacket and half his flight suit to stay afloat. Every breath was agony. Blood dripped into the sea, a beacon for predators. Then he saw it, a dark shape below him. A shark, maybe 8 feet long, circling lazily. Then another, and another. Swett forced himself to stay calm. He swam slowly, evenly, no splashing. The shark circled closer, curious but not attacking. He was 200 yards from Gavutu when exhaustion hit. His muscles refused to move. He felt himself slipping beneath the surface. Then, an engine. A boat. Voices shouting. American voices. Strong arms pulled him from the water onto the deck of a Coast Guard rescue boat. He collapsed, barely conscious. Broken nose, concussion, near drowning, but alive. 8 minutes later, the boat reached Tulagi. Medics cleaned him up and wrapped his head in bandages. He refused morphine, wanted to stay alert. Within the hour, he hitched a ride back to Henderson Field. Captain Foss was waiting. His first words, "Are you all right?" Swett nodded weakly. Foss asked, "How many did you get?" Swett replied, 7, maybe 8. Lost count. Foss just stared at him, a rookie pilot on his first mission. Then he called over the intelligence officer to take a full report. For 30 minutes, Swett described every kill: time, altitude, attack angle. The intel officer marked each crash site on a map. 7 confirmed wrecks matched Swett's account exactly. No exaggeration, no mistakes. 7 bombers destroyed in 15 minutes. On his first combat mission. Word spread across Guadalcanal within hours. By nightfall, every pilot knew the name James Swett. Admiral William Halsey received the report 3 days later. He'd seen hundreds of combat claims, but never one like this. No gun camera footage existed, but ship crews and fellow pilots confirmed every kill. Halsey personally recommended Swett for the Medal of Honor. The citation went all the way to Washington. President Franklin D. Roosevelt approved it on September 24, 1943. 2 weeks later, on October 10th, Admiral Halsey himself pinned the medal on Swett's chest at a ceremony on Espiritu Santo. He was the youngest Marine aviator ever to receive the nation's highest honor. The press caught wind of the story. Newspapers called him the one-man Air Force. Life magazine ran a photo spread titled, "The Rookie Who Shot Down 7." But for Swett, the fame meant little. He went right back to flying combat missions. By August 1943, he had 15.5 confirmed kills, including shared victories over bombers near Bougainville. He was shot down twice more, once over Vella La Vella, once over Rabaul, and survived both times. When he finally rotated home, he became a flight instructor. At NAS Jacksonville, he trained new pilots using lessons from that April day. Attack from above and behind. Short bursts. Conserve ammo. Never chase a crippled plane too low. Watch for friendly fire. And never panic. He'd lived every one of those lessons. When World War II ended, Swett stayed in the Marine Corps Reserve. He flew F4U Corsairs during the Korean War, though he didn't see combat. He retired as a colonel in 1970, with over 5,000 flight hours. He settled quietly in Northern California, rarely speaking about his Medal of Honor. When asked about that day in 1943, he'd shrug and say, "Just good training. Right place, right time." But everyone who knew the story understood. It was far more than luck. James Swett passed away on January 15, 2009, at the age of 88. He was buried with full military honors at Quantico National Cemetery. Hundreds attended: Marines, naval aviators, former students. His Medal of Honor citation was read aloud, for extraordinary heroism and disregard for his own safety. 7 enemy aircraft destroyed on April 7, 1943. As the Marine bugler played taps, those who'd studied his mission knew what that day had meant: the end of the last great Japanese air raid in the Solomons and the birth of one of America's greatest aviation legends. Historians later calculated that Swett's kills accounted for 1/6 of all Japanese aircraft destroyed that day. His engagement became a case study in Marine pilot training manuals. Flight instructors taught his tactics: strike from altitude, maintain discipline, use short bursts, and never underestimate training. Swett had only 197 flight hours when he faced 150 enemy aircraft and won. His story proved something vital to every pilot who came after him: that courage and preparation can overcome fear and inexperience. Today, his Wildcat lies somewhere beneath the calm waters of Tulagi Harbor. But his spirit lives on, in every Marine pilot who straps into a cockpit, in every instructor who teaches the next generation that skill and courage matter more than numbers. 7 bombers fell from the sky above Guadalcanal that day, brought down by a 22-year-old rookie who refused to give up. This isn't just a story about one pilot. It's a story about what happens when courage meets preparation, and when duty outweighs fear. Because on April 7, 1943, James Swett didn't just fight, he made history.